Okay, this is Dr. Jess Taubert, and she is sort of making fun of us as mud fossil researchers. And she thinks we're just seeing silly faces in rocks. Well, I see a lot more than faces. Okay, my stuff is DNA tested, and some of it's CAT scan. That's been CAT scanned, DNA tested human. That's a giant human fingertip. And I have the rest of the hand that goes with it. And these are the DNA tests. There was 3 of them on this one particular report. 3 mud fossil samples. I sent them in the extracted stuff, so they didn't take it out. But they did test what I sent them, and it was excellent quality DNA because I take it right from the blood, and it was human DNA, and it's a very, very complicated test. Excellent quality DNA sequences obtained from the, anyway, this is the lung. That's a lung. If you don't have, see, here's the problem. She's a psychologist. She's never going to understand any of this stuff. I need to have a biologist, a chemist, an anatomist, all of them, the whole shooting match, a historian, all of them, to understand what they're seeing. Because these people have no competency in other than one little spot. And even that, I find, is the competency level is only they can repeat what they've been told to say. This happened in a great flood. This was as flat as a pancake, and almost all my stuff is like that. And it separated on the fascia planes, which are a membrane which causes aluminosilicates, and every feldspar is aluminum silicates, and every feldspar is the coating that surrounds your skin and membranes. And this is a foot of some kind of a creature we don't know about. And they refuse to engage because they say, oh, you're just seeing rocks that are nothing, but you're seeing something in them. Yes, I am. I am seeing exactly what they are. And I had them tested for DNA, and they came back positive for human DNA, drilled deeply into an artery. And Augustus, my goose, was here following everything that I did, and he swears that I did it correctly. Right, Augustus? See, I told you. I told you. This is the kind of stuff they laugh at us for. That is a human head that has petrified in the mud fossil nucleophilic substitution way. Look it up. Do some research. Nucleophilic substitution means there's an invading group and a leaving group. In muddy, salty, wet acids and all kinds of different chemistry, invaders come in, they push other stuff out, and they stabilize the organic material that would normally disintegrate and decompose, absolutely. But in this particular situation, it does not. And this was a great saltwater flood, I believe. Even my buddy Caesar here. What happened to Caesar? He looks perfect as a goose. He looks just exactly. He's got his little beak, he's got his eyes, everything. He's got his feathers and all that. Well, guess what? This size flat as a pancake. He was in the flood along with this guy, along with this lung, along with all the rest of the stuff. And that's an artery right there. We could drill that. I mean, I have drilled into it just to see and look at it in a microscope. It's blood. You could go deeper and deeper in there and get more and more clean blood out of there because it's all encapsulated inside. This thing here is saturated with blood. I took it out of these, drilled a spot up inside there. It's totally saturated with blood. I have other, well, hold on a second. All right, this is when it first came out of the ground. That one here had actual blood came out of it, leaked blood. I'm serious, leaked blood. You see that? That's what came out of this one over here, these little red dots. That's a lung. These little round circles here, these little circles, those are alveoli. This lung has been stripped of its pleura, which is the coating that surrounds the lung. This one here, which I had DNA tested, still has all of that dense fabric-y pleura on there. That's the rubbery bag that surrounds it. You can't see it, but there's a rubbery bag around, and then inside it comes to this. And DNA tested, so, and they could be retested again. You see here, this was really red when it came out of the ground. Now it's pretty red. They turn brown, it's called oxidation. So, over the course of time, and of course here now I can't get any more red blood out of here because once it comes out, they dry up and the oxidation comes in and it makes them solid. Now, once they first come out of the mud though, if the mud is the correct style mud, a real wet clay, but it's got to be wet and it's got to be clay, wet, because clay is nothing more than wet flesh. It's eroded wet flesh. That's all there is. Now, if these are impacted in that stuff, when you take them out, they just like their body parts just came out of a bag. I mean, they just, well, the blood runs out of them. And that's not unnormal. It happens all the time. Now, I just sold off a couple of my building lots in the back here. My son's going to build a house, and I got another guy building a house out there, and they're digging foundations very soon. And this is all this stuff was found right here on my property. I had 10 acres of property. I only looked maybe an acre or so, and all this stuff is here. And I usually got stone walls coming out of my ears. Now, to get under the ground, the way I found most of this stuff, the hand. Did I show you the hand? Hold on. Let me show you the hand. I'll show you the hand in a second. But the bones like this, which is a bone, only it has all of the cartilage and the periosteum, the coating, what they used to call the tunica, the fabric in there. And deep inside, it still had the blood. Now, once you take them out of the ground, like I said, in this wet, really wet clay, they will just exude the blood out of there. And that is blood. That's a scab. Just like you have on your own hand. You get a scab, a cut. Now, let's look at it as it. I'm going to take the scab away, and the backing, this is called fibrin. And it's a clotting factor that goes underneath the scab. The scab dries up, and it seals off the wound and the clotting fiber and all that. And once it heals up, you pull the whole thing off. Now, here's what's underneath that. You see these two holes here? That hole and that hole right there? This one's red. That one's actually black. The reason is because that is the vein, and that's the artery. And once I took all of the stuff out of the way, you can see some of the red blood is still around here. And the black is vein blood. That's the difference between your body. It's used blood, it's vein. It's ferrous oxide, but it only has 2 oxygens. This is ferrous oxide, that's 3 oxygens. That's why and it drops an oxygen in your body as it goes through the body. Now, let me show you the hand. Hold on a second. Oh, where is it? Here it is right here. Now, that whole hand and the knuckles and the fingertips and all kinds of stuff came out when we dug a foundation for, the house was here and I never knew anything about it. 40 years ago, I don't know, when we built the house. And I never looked at any rocks. But when we had an office added about 15 years ago, I started looking at what they dug out. And it was like, that's a hand. Look at the size, that's a bed sheet. This thing is huge. And that's the tendon. If it's a left hand, it goes down here. This is actually the thumb from that hand. And I know it's a thumb because the bone is offset. If the bone is in the center, it's a fingertip of a regular finger. This bone is offset. And this was CAT scan, so I know there's no question what I'm talking about. And it was DNA tested. And that is the apical tuft at the top where all the little tiny tendons lock in. And it's just like this, because this was one that was eroded more. It's under there, and all these little balls with straps on them feed into those. And then there's one on the other side, right there. You see, you can even see the little straps coming into it. It's down in there, and this held all your finger tendons, so that you can move your fingers around. So this is not something that's even questionable. But I need an anatomist. They look and say, oh, that's nothing. Well, a psychologist might say that. Or, you know, anybody might say that. A geologist, oh, that's just mud. That's just clay. That's just sedimentation and concretion, and they got all kind of words. Well, I can tell you what it is. It's a hand, and it's a left hand, and that is the palm of the hand. This silvery stuff is grip skin that's peeling off of the hand. This is the red fleshy portion. This is only up to about here. And I have the, well, here, hold on a second. You see this? That's a finger. And that's the tendon that runs out to the finger. And I know that because that's a bone ball that is right at the end of, right like that, right there. And that is what comes down the side that makes you be able to do this with your finger. And that is the core center of that tendon. You see that little round spot? It comes down. That is going to go right on one side and the other of my finger. And that tendon runs right down the center of it, holding it in place. This is the abrupt transition, broke off. That is actually muscle fiber coating the bone ball. And that is the bone ball. This side is eroded all the way down. So that tendon is missing. The fleshy part is showing here, which was where the muscle would have been wrapped around here. But it's gone. This side is here. This is the flat tendon that goes out across the top of your finger, right like the top of your finger. It headed out this way. This headed back towards your hand. I guess I know this intimately. Intimately. I know the chemistry, I know the biology, I know the anatomy, I know the conditions that cause this, I know the history, I know the nucleophilic invasion, I understand the grip skin, and every single bit about this, 100%. Nothing do I not possess of knowledge about this. So, I want to talk to somebody who thinks they have more knowledge than I do, and then we will discuss it. Simple as that. Okay, I know it's quite unlikely that I will hear from Jess Taubert, but it's possible. And if I do, and all she says is, oh, I was just talking about the differences between males and females see things, I don't care. She's a psychologist. I want to know, what do you see in the things I am presenting you with? Can you see this? As a psychologist, are you able to determine reality? Because I have found practicing psychologists, psychiatrists that are in the actually teaching as professors that still refuse to accept this. All right, they refuse to accept it. I want to see what she says. If she refuses to accept it, well, then that'd be very, very interesting to see. Because now there's no question. This is all proven. The DNA, the CAT scans, the whole thing. I believe she is attacking us in a roundabout manner, and using the difference between male and female to obscure the fact that they're attacking us for presenting mud fossils. And that is, I see this as an attack. Okay, I sent these pictures. This is specifically on my property, and I actually broke off a piece of the fingerprints to get to where the blood was and had a DNA tested. It's human. That's a fingernail. That's the pad that bumps up. Now, this is where we need an anatomist and some biologist and somebody that has some expertise in other areas than psychology to be, talking about pareidolia. Because this is not pareidolia. All right? And neither is this. This is the fingerprints that were on the other side of that fingernail. Those are the finger ridges. Same as like you have fingerprints. It's a fingerprint ridge. Those are the sweat pores. You see them up there? This grip skin fell right off of there. Well, it didn't fall off. I smashed it off, and then I drilled up down in here because there's a ton of blood down in there. And I go right for the artery. I know where these things are. I'm totally qualified to do this, and I fully understand vaginas too. Not to brag, but no, this is a female vagina. Well, I mean, I guess most of them are. Anyway, this little split right here, you see this? You see that? What's that doing there? Somebody carved that? I don't think so. I mean, there's just no question what we're looking at here is anatomically identical to a human vagina. And that little line right there, that split, is called the Hunter's line. And what it does is that is where the blastula sealed. When the baby starts as a blastula ball, and then it inverts, and it comes around and it seals, right, like that. And that seal, when these were flooded, expands and it cracks. When they come back together, it leaves a little tiny crack. I see them in all of them. And there's a lot of them out there. And not only that, I believe this was pregnant, this when she drowned. And they all drowned in a great flood. And why I say that is right here. Now take your time, take your time. You see this over here? Look right there. Look, there's the nose right there. There's a nose. There's the eyeball. There's the arm and the shoulder coming right out. Breaking right out through the flesh. Being pushed out of the side of the cavity. Because that's what's called a coffin birth. They were inside the mother's womb, deep inside, and could not get out through the vagina, and it was because of the swelling and all that. The face was, the body was trying to be pushed out of there, and then it dried up. Well, you see this side, how perfect it is? This one here is a baby being pushed out. Now, if that's pareidolia, I'd like to talk about it. You know, these things are here. This is the Thracian womb cave. I didn't name it that. They knew what it was. I mean, you know, anybody, I don't know, maybe some people don't know female anatomy. I have no clue anymore. I got to be honest with you. The ability for people to see things, you know, when they say pareidolia, like us seeing things that aren't there, they can't see what is there. How could that possibly be? And then to disregard DNA tests and CAT scans and every other possible scientific evidence. I understand all the chemistry. The chemistry is all there. It's all there. So who's the one lost from reality? Now, I expect Jess Talbert, Dr. Jess Talbert, to contact me back, and then we can have a discussion about this. Open this up to general discussion. That's what scientists do.